Welcome to the mock interview today. Thank you for joining us. The format today is going to be 1 hour long, and it's going to be a bit special in that what I heard is that you haven't done many object-oriented design interviews before, and
Yeah,
you want to get better at them. Is that right?
that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to go through a question, but I'll be much more helpful than an interview typically would be. Okay, so I'll be holding your hand a bit more. I'll be guiding you through, and this is not meant for realism. This is just meant so that we can get through the problem, and we can go through more of it and to hopefully learn more about it. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
So, okay, so how this is gonna work is I'm gonna dictate the problem description, and
Yeah.
you are gonna take notes. By the way, is Python okay? What's your preferred language?
Yeah, Pythons are
Okay, good.
good. Yeah.
All right. This is for object-oriented design, by the way, right? So you gotta write classes. This isn't just LeetCode. You're aware of that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll be dictating the problem, and it may or may not be complete. So you might not have enough information. Okay, and you need to notice that and to ask as needed. All right.
Got it. Yeah.
Okay. So our problem today is going to be designing a currency exchange. All right. So the currency exchange is going to be a system which is going to have two users. All right.
Okay.
It's gonna have two people. Let's say two personas. It's gonna have an end user, and it's gonna have
Yeah.
the owner or the bank. Let's call it the bank. Okay. So it's
Okay.
gonna be end user and the bank. All right.
Yeah.
And these two people are gonna have different requirements. All right. Okay. So let me just share a little bit about the problem first. So this is going to be a currency exchange, and the goal is that the clients, the end users, are going to be allowed to exchange money. Okay. So for example, they might have Canadian dollars and they want to get American dollars out. All right. So they're gonna let's say I want to give you 100 Canadian dollars and you give me some American dollars back. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
And there's going to be a rate associated with every exchange. All right. So for example,
Yep.
if yeah, it's going to be rate. So for example, so you wrote there USD to CAD. So for example, our rate right here might be like 1 to 1.3. So if I give you 1 USD, you give me 1.3 Canadian dollars back. All right. So all these different let's say possibilities will have rates associated with them. Okay.
Got it. Yeah.
And then they're also going to be with the example here is USD to Canadian dollars. It's also possible in reverse.
Yeah.
Okay, so for example, if I give you 1.3 Canadian dollars, you got to give me 1 United States dollar back.
Okay.
All right.
Reverse is also yeah.
All right. Okay. And then these are just examples of currencies, right? There could be many currencies. Okay. And who decides the currencies and the rates? Well, the bank does. So the bank,
Okay.
needs to be able to add currencies and add exchange rates for them.
Oh, okay. So the
Okay.
bank, sorry, it needs exchange rates. Yeah. You said four of them. I missed the other.
Yeah. So for example, the
So-
bank can say, okay, well now I'm going to accept yen as a currency, and the rate
okay.
for USD to yen will be like 1 to 150. Right. And then by the way,
Okay.
the numbers are all fake. You can do whatever numbers you
Yeah,
want.
yeah. I'll do
But
it. Yeah.
but the bank will set the currencies they accept, and they will set the rates they will accept. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is the perspective from the bank. So obviously clients can't add currencies. They can't, right? So only the bank can do this. Only the bank can add rates and currencies.
Yeah.
Right. The users can request so the users can request an exchange. Okay. So this
Got
is
it,
the
got it.
overall setup here. Now just to get us moving along a bit,
Yep.
I want you to think about first of all, think about the classes, think about the design. But for our first goal will be to write some API, some function, which a client can call and says, hey, I want to convert 100 Canadian dollars to USD, and you need to represent that request. Okay.
I see. Okay. One, two. Like just request a simple exchange. Like I have CAD exchange to USD, something like that, right?
Yeah. So the client use exactly. So I want to exchange. Well, they want to request like a numeric amount. So like let's say 100 CAD
Right,
to USD.
right.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. And you right. You need to represent this by, let's say for example, you need to represent the client in some manner, right? They might need, in this case, they might need an account.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They might need an
That,
account.
okay.
And then
Yeah.
you need to exchange the value in their account.
There. God. Okay, I see what you mean. Right, so client other data would be. I guess I should just start with.
Okay, so that's I'm gonna say, right, so that's our first goal, right? Don't design a solution that is super detailed and tailored for this one use case. Okay, think about it as if you're designing a real system with these parameters, because we will have further goals down the line. Okay, so I just want to clarify, right? So this is our first goal. I want to have you give it a shot first, and then we'll talk about that after. Okay.
Okay, so like as bare bones as possible, right? Just like having the minimum.
I wouldn't fix it too much on bare bones, quote unquote. You know, I mean, obviously don't make something that's super enterprise, but like, hey, don't like hyper optimize for this one use case.
I see.
Design a real system that has all the stuff that you want, and then using that quote unquote real system, make this one use case.
Okay. So I guess for the user, we'll probably need a way to identify, so some sort of ID. And then, as you said, the account, for the account would be, so this is like a bank, right? Like a user would be associated with the bank, so they have their account. Okay, so this is like, so that would be like a monetary amount. Okay, in. So we'll have this. Oh yeah, I had a question for like these class design parts where during like the setup, like the boilerplate stuff.
Yeah.
What was I trying to say? Like usually, do we just go along and type all these in while you're still talking, or should I just wait until you finish?
So that depends. So what I would say is, while someone's like explaining the setup, it's most effective to take notes during that time. Okay. All right.
Okay,
and then that way you can pay attention to any gaps in the knowledge, right? For example, in this case, and I'm going to help you out here, so I'm going to step in here for a second. In this case, the problem was not fully complete in that I did not tell you what is the relationship between a user, an account, and a bank.
Right.
Okay, so this is a critical relationship because you need to know this to know what types to use. Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna just tell you what's gonna happen here is that a user will have one account per currency at the bank. Okay, so the user will have one Canadian dollar currency, one Canadian dollar account. And then they will have one USD account, and then they'll have one per, but it might have $0 inside, right? So
right.
So that's a situation. So you might have like a quote unquote default situation, right? So this is a choice for you to make how you want to represent that, okay? And then of course this is something which if you had maybe discussed, etc., we would have talked about, right? Now to answer your question about typing it out, now this is going to depend on the interviewer. Some of them will have a simpler question where their goal is to test your completeness and detail orientedness, and so they will require the code to work. Okay. In our case, I'm honestly too lazy to check that, so I'm okay with pseudocode. So things like constructors, you can just write pass and then just move on. Okay. Oops, that's not. Okay. So I don't need a test or constructor skills. I just really couldn't care less. So we can just do this and move on, right? But again, this is something which you should ask. Say, hey, Mr. Interviewer. I was wondering if you want me to write down all the details in the constructor, or should we just skip that and move on to the implementation? Okay. So that's something which you can always add. Now the thing is, if they say no, I don't want to write it out, that's not gonna they're not gonna think less of you, right? At least you checked, right? So that's just a good strategy to have. Now, so in this case, like I said, if you're just gonna set these variables, I really couldn't care less. Just move on.
Okay. Oh, okay. So then back to the discussion about like the relationships between the banks and the users. That's something I should clarify all the way up front, like before I even type anything for the code related, right?
Well, that's a skill check. So the skill check there is, do you know that that's an important piece of information? Right. For example, there are some information which is not important, which I don't know if you noticed or not. Right. For example, one piece of information that's not important is, do the currencies need to be real? Right. That question is not relevant. It is not important. You don't need to ask that up front. Okay. Now, the relationship between users, accounts, and banks is important And so you should ask that before typing, because that to me signifies, oh, you have some foresight, you have some ability to design, because you recognize that you cannot design it without knowing this. Okay?
Oh, okay, okay.
Like you can't actually write a design. You can't make classes if you don't know this design ahead of time. So if you
Yeah,
ask ahead of time, then I know, okay, you actually know what's going on, right? If you don't ask ahead of time, then I know that you don't know what's going on, because you're already attempting to do things without knowing this, right? Does that make sense?
that makes sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right.
Okay, okay. So then, yeah, banks would have could have the same user but with different accounts, and
Yes.
I'm thinking the way that's implemented in the data model will can differ. Like, could we have one user, but that user has multiple accounts, or
Yeah.
the bank could have um, the user. I guess it's the same thing. So okay, but that's the key point that users will have multiple accounts here.
Yeah, so just to
Okay.
kind of move us along again, so what we're gonna do here
Yeah.
is so you have a user class. That's great to have, right? So think about what properties you'll want on the user class, knowing what we do now. Okay, so think about that back of
Mm-hmm.
your head, and then also we're gonna have a class bank. Okay, actually, what I'll do here is to help us along, is I'll put it over here. So a
Yeah.
class, so our bank class is also gonna have some stuff. Okay, where's my constructor? So a couple of things here. What does our bank need to know? All right, and then one more thing to think about in this case, right, just to help you along again, is we're gonna have an
Yeah.
account class, okay? Okay, so think about what parameters will our account need to know. Now, obviously, these three should probably know about each other, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to have you now think about that, think that through, and tell me what the connections, what the parameter, what the properties will be.
I see. Yeah. Okay. So for the bank will need to know every account that's registered under it. So it needs to know every account like it has, and then uh, who's it needs to know the exchange rate for each pair of currency. Um, right, because you'll have CAD, USD. That's what I have so far. And then for the account will need. Well, we need to know the type, like what currency type, like it says CAD or USD, and then who it's associated with, like the user, right? So they need to know the user and whatever type it is. And then this account and user, I guess, is just this one-to-one relationship.
Sorry, 1 to 1. Are you sure?
Uh, account type. A user can
Right. So there's gonna be
have.
one user, and they may have multiple
Oh, sorry.
accounts.
Yes, you're right. You're right. A user can have multiple accounts, but one
Yes.
account is only associated to one user. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So then the user would, instead of just one account, it would have a list, but we could represent currency as like a map with mapping the string like CAD. See, I'll just write accounts, but yeah, where accounts will look something like it's a map of string that maps to your. Hmm. Does this make sense? Okay. Just
Right. So in
copy
this
account.
case, we're
Yeah.
implying that a currency can be uniquely represented by a string. Is that the implication here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
I think this is a fine assumption, but it's good to note that.
Yeah. Yeah. I should say that.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. We can move on.
Okay.
And so, given that you have this going on, uh, do you think you need to modify the account class at all? I mean, what does currency type mean? Is this like what does it mean to be like type?
Oh, sorry. This is meant to be referring to the type here. Like
Okay.
what? Yeah.
So the currency.
Yeah, the currency. Yeah, I should
Okay.
rename that. Yeah.
You also deleted user. That was that intentional?
Oh, sorry. It was not. Okay. Now the bank. Back to the bank. It would need. It would need to know every user.
Mm-hmm.
Um, guess you wouldn't need a list like again. Every user can have multiple accounts,
Yep.
so it will first to store the users. Um, we can map every user to identify the user. Right? I'm thinking of either using just keeping a list of users for now.
Well, each user has an ID.
Yeah.
So maybe when
Okay.
you have these ID situations, it's typical to have like a map from the ID to the
Okay.
instance or to the reference. So I would recommend. I mean, I would recommend. I mean, you can definitely put in that list of users, but I would store them as like a dictionary.
Right, so we would store it as a dictionary where it's the ID and that points to like the instance of the user like this.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay. I think that makes sense. Yeah. We have ID map and then all the accounts as well. And then I think it's another scenario where we but how do we map the user to its account? So each account has its user and its currency type. Um, my intuition is that we have to somehow use a combination of the user and the currency type as a key to find that account.
Okay.
But how would I represent that? Are tuples what's the word? Yeah, can you use them as keys in maps?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So then something like using the UID and the currency type could give us that specific account. Account. I guess I can save users. Okay. Um, I'll have a question about
Mm-hmm.
the general process of this. So like at this point where like I feel like I've wrote down all my thoughts, like how
Yeah.
should I like segue into the next part?
Yeah,
Because
for
I feel
sure.
like yeah.
Yeah, so the goal here was actually outlined for you in the case that the client use case that you want to request 100 or it is an example, but the goal here is that you want to support a way for a client to exchange money.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
so what that would typically look like in this case is you would be writing a function on the user class. Okay, so that'll be like and you can name that whatever you want, and then
Yeah.
you need to define what's going on over here. So for example, what parameters would you need to successfully execute this operation. And then over
Mhm.
here,
Mhm.
this is where you would actually be writing the code for that, right? So for example, in this case, let's say you might want to do things like, hey, check if I have enough money, right? And then it's like, oh, hey,
Yeah.
check the uh, it depends. So this is right. So check if I have the right accounts. Maybe this works, maybe this doesn't, right? And then and then make a request to the bank.
Right, right, right. Okay. But so let's say before I start the methods, do I have to say anything like can I move on or do like
Yeah,
a
it's
quick
usually good to check
check?
in to give the
Yeah.
intruder a chance to correct you if you have any like
Yeah.
drastically bad design. In our
Mhm.
case, our design is fair enough and we can proceed. So you can go
Okay.
ahead and you know, and by the way, you know, sometimes they'll say that, but we'll still expect you to look out for chances to improve your current design.
Mm-mm.
So they're not
Yeah,
saying that your design is perfect, they're saying that it's good enough to proceed.
it's
So
good.
as you work through it, you should still think about, hey, are there any helpers that I would write? Are there any classes that I would make? Are there any so you should think about that, right? But it's just that
Yes.
yes, it's good to check in, but not good to dwell on it.
That makes sense. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so then now if we move on to the request exchange method, we'll need to know, well, the things we need to know who's it requesting. So who's it coming from? Who do they, oh, and then who they want. Oh, sorry, I'm thinking about e-transfer. So what's the currency? The, and then what are they trying to exchange to? Okay, so yeah, as you said, if we need to first see, all right, we need to get the amount as well, and amount. So do we need to checking if enough we have enough
Just to
money?
clarify, what's
So
this from user about?
oh, sorry, this meant to be for like whose account we're looking at, but I guess we don't need it because
Yeah,
it's
we're
from the
in the
user
user, so we
itself.
have a self. This is the user,
Yes,
right?
yes. Sorry, yeah, that's correct. Okay, so we need to check if the amount. This means like if the amount has to be the less than or equal to whatever I have, what I have in the bank. Currency type. As I'm writing, I feel like I realize I don't have an amount. I don't think I'm storing the amount anywhere. Yeah, in
Yeah.
the accounts I should have the amount.
So this is
Okay, so
the constructor, right? So presumably when you construct an account, you know, you might have a default value here, but I think this is totally
default
fine to
value.
put in here, right?
Yeah,
But when
sorry,
you're
yeah.
thinking about this, you should be thinking about some other operations which might be possible on an account, right? And just to help you out here, just to help us, just to move us along, right? So think
Yeah.
about this, right? Deposit, self amount currency. I'll just type currency, right? So you might want to write that, right? Def
Withdraw.
withdraw
Right.
self amount currency, right? So these are the functions which probably should exist,
Yeah.
and you don't need to implement them right now, but think about them, right? Think about these, and think about them in the context of what you might need for other classes to work. So there you go.
Oh, okay, thank you. So, right, these are things I should think about before. Yeah, I feel like I find myself going through and then realizing something and then going back into it. Okay. So these are helpers that I should already have. Account. Um, Quest exchange. So if you say sometimes we can skip certain implementations,
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering like to what degree does that apply? Like for this one, we want to request exchange.
Yeah. So for
Like
this one,
there's
I would
certain
say you should actually implement as real code. Now, obviously, by itself, it won't run because everything else is implemented. But you should assume
yeah.
that everything is implemented, and now you need to implement request exchange.
Got it. Got it.
I mean, you should still keep your comments here. The comments are always helpful, but you should
Yeah.
assume that this code needs to run.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So we'll have to go into our. Oh, we need to go check our accounts map. So and that will need. See, the account is a user and currency type. Account. So here's something I should have clarified. Right? How is the account being? How is the account? Because I've only had string here. Oh, sorry. We can just use self, right? So we'll have to use the from currency in order to grab the associated account, and then that should give us the account. But to access, I guess the amount, I'll use the variable amount here. Just we have to make sure that we have more, or at least enough to take out, to request that exchange. And then check if I have the right. So this one here for checking if I have the right account. So once I know that I have the right amount, I'll need to. So does this mean that, could you clarify what this exactly means here, like having the right accounts?
Right. So this is a detail which depends on whether or not. Oh, it depends on how you have structured your accounts. For example, for example, in our situation here, where I'm saying, hey, I want to exchange 100 Canadian dollars for US dollars, right? Do I at what point do you need to verify if I have a USD account? Does everybody have every account by default? Does everybody have no
Oh,
account by default until you make a deposit? Right? So
I
that's a decision
see.
which I did not specify and which you need to make, and you have not made the decision yet.
Okay, okay. I think that's something I should remember. So, this is the implementation decision where we want to, like, to initialize the original accounts. So, say if I just selected that, once every user is created, once a user is created, they have all accounts, all currency accounts defaulted to 0. So they have every account, but they're all set to 0. In that case, like, would we not need this check?
You would not. That's right. You would not need that check. However, um, you would need to do more work later on in bank, right? Because I said one of the use case for the bank. This is not the goal, right? This is not goal number one. This is later goal. But I
Mm-hmm,
said right,
mm-hmm.
the bank needs to be able to add currencies, right?
Oh, okay, okay.
Self new per
New currency.
29. So you need to think about what this means.
I
Okay.
see. So that means when a that every user would have to be updated with that new currency, which could be a pain if I choose to do this. Okay, so then I guess an alternative would be to just create that account um, like on demand. Like if I want to transfer to it, but I don't have it, then I'll create it. So this is the two options that I currently have. So I'll go with the second one,
Okay.
where let's see. So if self dot accounts, so for the account that we want to, I guess I should also check for the from as well. What if I don't even have the original? So I could move this up here first. This checks the from part. If it doesn't exist, or not. This is not in our. This is not in our accounts map as a key. Then we should create it. Set it to 0. And then we would do the same for.
I think your typing here is not quite right. Right. This. What is accounts here again? Accounts is your self accounts, right? So this is an instance of an account, right?
Sorry.
So your
yeah.
value here should be instance of an account. It can't be like 0.
Oh, you're right. Sorry. So it should be that, but default. Doing the self user, and whatever that type is, and defaulted to 0. Okay. I see. Oh, forgetting the I'll have to touch up on my Python a bit. But this should be the same for here. But this is the 2. Okay. Oh. 2. Right, so this is the check, and then if I don't have it created, then we check if I have enough. If I do, then we make the actual exchange. Or did I have rate anywhere? We need to, okay, so now we will need to access the bank, because the bank has all of the rates. First, we need to check rate for currency pair. So that means the user should also have a variable for the bank. You should know what bank it's associated with. This the bank. Then so the bank would have to have, okay, so it has to add currency, new currency. Currency would be represented as another map associated with the rate. I'll just say like this.
So could you explain this a bit here? So what does this mean?
Okay. I would need to represent the, sorry, not one currency, like the currency pair. So, yeah. Basically what we're exchanging to and from.
Okay.
Yeah. So this would be, for example, it might look like this and gives me a number. It could look like that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that works.
Okay. Then I will have to go access the bank dot rates using from to. I guess before that we should do a check if we even have that rate. Do I check for? Does it exist first? Is that? Is this more of a exception kind of check where like we should be throwing an error if it doesn't exist?
Well, so in this case, this is a good question to ask ahead, by the way. But in this case,
Okay.
how it's gonna work is that your currency account, that is, the currencies that the bank supports for accounts must be supported by the exchange rate. Okay, so if the account exists, then the rate exists, and vice versa. In the sense that like, hey, if the bank supports like Japanese yen, then people must be able to open a Japanese yen account if they want. So
okay.
by this point, because you're checking for the existence of both currency accounts, then the rate must exist.
Oh, okay. Okay, so then once we check the rates, we make that exchange. So this is the rate, and then we would have to take that money from I should probably use a variable here, but take money. from account. Apply the rate and then deposit to the two per account, which would use deposit and withdraw methods. So we would withdraw the amount from is this withdraw the amount from this account amount, apply the rate. This would be times equal the rate, which we get from there. Oops, don't need this. Then we deposit that current amount into the two. And then, okay. After this, does that look okay?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I would like to have a bit of a discussion about
Yeah.
your decision to implement the logic for like the logic here, like you decided to implement it in the request exchange function inside of the user class. Was there a conscious decision being made there, or was that just something you didn't think too much about and just did?
Yeah, I think that's something I did not think hard enough about.
Okay. Can you
Yeah.
tell me the pros and cons of implementing this logic inside of the user class versus inside the bank class?
Okay, let's see. So when I put it in the user class, I need to have this relationship where the user needs to know what bank it's in, and then besides that, okay, if I were to implement this in the bank, I would also have I think I need to brush up on my OOD, but is it correct to say that it's better in here because most of the methods is already with the users?
There's no right or wrong answer in this case because
Mm-hmm.
it was not the requirements were not laid out precisely enough for you to make that objective decision. But there probably were some things that we could have discussed. Like for example, one thing would have been where should helpers be, right? Was like for
Yeah.
example in this case we may be conflating a user and their account, right? And maybe is it worth it putting the deposit function in the account class, right? I put it here not to force you to put it here, but just to use examples for
Yeah.
helpers, right? But
I see.
so that was a discussion that I think would have been good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But anyways, let's move on. So let's assume that's
Okay.
fine. Now I want us to implement or if we to go through and implement the add currency function.
Add currency. Okay, for the bank here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So add currency. So given a new currency type, let's see, we would have to create a new rate for each pairing, right? Like say we only had CAD USD, we'd have a rate between both of them in reverse, but if we added, let's see, a yen, then we would need a CAD to yen, goodness. CAD to yen, USD to yen, and vice versa as well, and the reverse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The rate. I'm assuming the rate will be included, right? If you're. Oh wait, no, but that would be different for each.
Yeah, so how we're going to do
Yeah.
this is that you will be given the rate of this currency to CAD.
So
All
the
right?
rate of this currency,
To CAD.
like to CAD, or like to every
No,
other,
just
or
to CAD. Just to CAD.
just to CAD. I
Yes.
see. Okay.
And then you need to calculate the rest.
Oh, okay. So the rate is for. Would that be for every single other new currency? Like all of them would be to CAD first?
Yes, yes. So our assumption here is that we're Canadian, so our Canadian rate will always exist, right? So CAD will always
Oh,
be a valid currency, and so CAD
okay.
has always existed. And now when you add the next currency to the add currency function, the rate will be given from that currency to CAD. So if you're given one of this new one, how many CAD do you get? Yes.
Oh, okay, okay. So let's. Okay, so say we have CAD to USD, and we try to add yen. We're given yen to CAD, but we need to populate yen to USD. But that's something we'd have to figure out within the function, right?
Well, so you could figure out, yeah, yeah. So you can figure out yen. So you can deduce yen to USD.
Yeah. Okay. So we'd have to take this sort of we have to take this yen to CAD and then to USD, and then that would give us um, yen to USD after we apply like whatever multiplicative
Yeah.
uh, operations. Okay. I see. And then this would happen for every new one. Okay. So we can. So in our rates, this is our. We first add our original. So rates for the new currency to CAD is whatever that rate is. So this gives us our original rate, and then from here we have to get the rest. Now how would I represent? I'd have to do some sort of. Let's say I had a bit more. Uh, After I add yen, and I suppose I implemented this already, I would get yen to USD. I feel like there's some sort of algorithm here to use.
Yeah. Well, there is a bit of algorithm to use, but we'll keep it simple for now. Okay.
Okay.
So what you notice is correct over here, which is that we have this number, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we need every number over here that starts with CAD, right?
Every number that starts with
Right. So when we iterate, so if we were to iterate through the rates, we need everyone that starts with CAD, and if it starts with CAD, we need to add a rate for that if we're in yen. Does that make sense?
If it starts with. Could you say that one more time?
Yeah, no problem. So right
Yeah.
now the only rate we've added is, in this case, let's say we're adding what? Let's say we're adding yen, right?
Yeah.
So now our rates dictionary contains yen to CAD,
Yeah.
right? But we also need yen to everything else,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now how do we get everything else? Well, CAD to US. Oh, so CAD has a rate to everything else.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, so we need to find all the examples of CAD to something. Right? For every CAD to something, let's add the yen to that thing
Yeah.
as well.
Oh, Okay, I understand the goal, but I see. So for every, so I need to iterate through the keys. So guess I'll need the rate as well, actually. So for every key and rate in the rates, I think it's items, right? For if you want the key and the rate.
Yeah, items plural.
Okay. Thank you. Um, so if the key, so that would be the first part of the tuple. Uh, sorry, do I use dot first, or was it like just the
You just index 0.
index zero? Okay, okay, thank you. So the first, the left side is CAD. Um, for each key that starts with CAD, we'll need to apply the rate. So we'll do, so the new rate would be, for here, the CAD rate. Is it okay to just use like multiplier? Because I'm not exactly sure what the operation is, right? We're just applying through the rates.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. And then we'll store that new rate. The new currency, and then this would be the second part. Pulls new rate. Let me check. Does this look okay? Here we go to add.
You should also add the reverse rates.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I need to do the reverse as well. Okay. Then thank you. The reverse as well. Okay, but then this would be like, how do I find the reverse rate of this?
It would just be 1 divided by this.
Oh, okay. So I thought I had to do like a logic to get the reverse. Okay, thank you.
You should also add the reverse rate for CAD.
Thank you, thank you. Right. Reverse for need to add yen. Okay. Does this look okay?
Yep, looks good. All right, so given that we've got 2 minutes left, I want to end it here.
Yeah.
And go through some of the questions that you might have and some of the feedback, which I have a couple of things to kind of say over here as well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you can go first, yeah.
Okay, great. So I think there's a couple things to note on this one. I mean, this is obviously maybe your first time doing object-oriented design, so it's good to keep that in mind. That being said, I think there is definitely still some room to improve on a couple aspects, right? So I think some things you've done well so far is checking in with the interviewer and kind of getting some buy-in on that. I think that's definitely something which you should keep on practicing and keep up. That's definitely a good thing. Okay. Now I think there's a couple things that are more about the process as well. So for example, there are a couple areas which you could slow down or speed up in. Okay, so it's about the time management there, and some of these, will depend on the interview and the interviewer. So that would depend. Okay, but that's where having that communication, having just talking, chatting is going to help. All right. Now, one more thing I will say about this is specific to this problem, right? There are a lot of, and this will be the case with a lot of problems actually, but in our specific case today, the functions and the features you're asked to implement is only a small part of the overall problem. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
important to note because you may need to add helpers or to add classes or something throughout the problem, and that's totally okay to do. Right. So in this case, I provided you with some examples of helpers to use, but that would be expected that you would come up with that yourself as you write into the
Yeah.
function. As you realize, oh, this would actually make sense as a helper method, or this would make sense as its own feature or whatever. So keep that in mind. That's something which you should always look out for, and that is always a good thing to see in an interview.
I see. I see. About that, I do have one question
Yeah.
about to what extent would I be implementing these helpers? Like I'm thinking like you just give the name and then like what parameters are passed in and what's returned. But
Yeah, so
is
the
there?
stubs, and I think that is definitely a good thing to say. By the way, over here you expected a return method, or I mean return value, but that was not specified. So that's something which you should probably specify. Okay.
I yeah.
Uh,
Thank you. Yeah.
Now, the question being, how deeply should you implement things? So that's gonna depend. For example, some of these things are what you currently have written. I think this is an acceptable amount of implementation. However,
Okay.
there are some other issues with it, right? So, for
Yeah.
example, one thing I've noted here is that you're saying, hey, you should only create an account on demand.
Yeah.
Okay, uh, that's not. I mean, like, yes, that is sort of what's happening, but that's not really. For example, you're creating an account for the from currency, no matter what, which is not
No.
what you have written over here, right? That's not on demand because it could be that you don't have a from currency, in which case you can't do the request,
Oh.
right? Like
So if I haven't even.
so this is a logical problem,
I
right?
see. Okay.
And
Okay.
in that regard, where this would make sense is if you if you were converting to a currency didn't have an account, right? Okay, then this will make sense, right? However, in terms of design, what would actually be better is to notice that this logic is not unique to request exchange, but it should also exist in the deposit function. So what should
The deep.
actually happen is the deposit function should handle the creation of this situation, right? So what I would do is I would just move this over here. Okay, this would actually be like this, like so. This is how the deposit function should be, and then and the currency should obviously be the amount, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is how the deposit should be, and then over here, when you call deposit, you don't need to worry about if it exists or not because the deposit would be the one that handles it, right? So this is an example
Oh.
of how the helpers can come into play and how you should leverage them.
Oh. Okay.
And then obviously, I didn't finish this implementation, but else add you know. Right. So this is an example. There's a couple of these instances which I think you should go through again and just kind of look at, see how you can improve that. But just keep that in mind, right? Like it's not just making the single function work the way you want. In this case, request
Yeah.
exchange, but also thinking about how this function fits into the broader class, right?
I
So
see.
that's something to think
Okay.
about. And more generally, by the way, the helpers here should really live inside the accounts class. This is where it makes sense a lot more for having
Mm-hmm.
deposits and withdrawals. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so
I
that's an
see.
example of that. One more thing I wanted to talk about was, I'll let you ask questions after. Was and this is probably just an experience thing, but
Yeah.
generally speaking, for dictionaries, you shouldn't use composite keys very much. In this case,
Like.
and in fact, tuples are that's called hashable. It's the property you're looking for is hashable. So
Oh.
tuples are
Yes.
hashable.
Yeah.
However,
Okay.
they don't make good keys, and that was evident once you came over here, because this is actually the only way you can get all the keys that start with cat is to iterate through them all. And as you would know, this is an n squared operation because there are n squared items,
Mm,
and so
yeah.
every additional work will incur an n squared penalty. So this is not ideal, right? And the
Okay.
reason it's not ideal is because you have to iterate through every key. So on your own time, think about how you can not do this.
God. Okay. Yeah. Let's don't use. I see. I see. Yeah. I'll think about that on my own time as well. Yeah.
Okay, and then open
Yeah.
the floor for any questions on your side.
Yeah. Thank you. I did have a question about the my time usage. Like
Yeah.
my own time, like when I'm doing LeetCode as well, or I like to like put comments like first and then put the code in, but I'm starting to think like that might just eat away at my time like during an actual interview. Like, is this okay, or should I just say what I'm doing and then write the code down?
So I would say, generally speaking, you should write comments, and I don't think they're always a time waste. The reason is quite
Mm-hmm.
simple, actually. It's comments, I feel like, are a bit of an insurance policy, where
Mm-hmm.
yes, it does take time to write the comment, but also there are situations where if you don't write a comment, you'll end up spending more time to figure things out. And one thing that I would say about comments that is a bit underrated is that, typically you're using them in terms of pseudocode or for outlining your process. And you'll
Yeah,
do that,
yeah.
and so you write down all your comments before starting the implementation. And so, in fact,
Mm-hmm.
it's actually a really easy way to get the interviewer to look over that and, to get any confirmation as necessary. Okay? So, if it's a really simple problem, then I think it's okay to omit the comment, save yourself time. But
Yeah.
if you're having some doubts about whether or not you can do it in one shot, then I think it's usually worth it to write comments.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. I do have one last
Sure, yeah.
question about the point you said earlier about like checking in with the interviewer. Like, is there like how much is too much? I feel like if I ask like if this is okay after like every line, like that'll be too much, right? Like, what's like a good,
Yeah. So
yeah.
that's going to depend on the
What's
interviewer and the type of interview they're looking for. So, for example, sometimes, and you should have a read on this as you get through more of these practices. Okay. So one
yeah.
thing that you'll notice is that sometimes they're doing OOD for the purpose of checking your execution. So they want to see your correctness. They want to see your speed in implementation. In those
Mm-hmm.
cases, it's I would say it's really only appropriate to ask for guidance if you're asking about things to clarify the problem, and
Okay.
usually they'll want you to be able to go through and churn through the problem yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
On some other interviews, they're looking more for a signal on collaboration and on your communication skills. And in that case, it's oftentimes quite appropriate to ask for help or guidance or to check in, saying, "Hey, is this okay? This okay?" You know, if you're always nervous about that kind of thing, I'd say it's easier for you to ask it if you're prepared with a more leading question, right? So don't ask them like, "Hey, is this okay?" Ask like,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey,
Mm-hmm.
I think this is okay because I considered this case where you mentioned earlier. Are there any other cases you think I have missed?" Right. So if you can ask a
Ah,
more
okay.
directed or pointed question about a certain piece of feedback they gave earlier, that would be quite like a good way to ask it. So I would say, it's not really about asking; it's also about how you ask and why you're asking.
Yeah. Yeah. I should make my like check-ins more direct and more targeted towards like
Yeah,
let
the
them know what I
targeting is
want
important.
rather.
Exactly.
Okay. 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 That makes sense. Okay. Yeah, I think that's all the questions I have now. Yeah.
Great. Well, we're out of time. So, thank you for doing the mock. Have a nice day.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You too. Thank you so much for your time.